Hey there, welcome to episode 23 of the FFS Talk audio program. I'm your host, Dan Hugo, recording on Tuesday, April 30th, 2024, slightly earlier than normal. Episodes of FFS Talk are normally published on Thursdays, but if I can get ahead of the game a little bit now and then, why not? Today's episode is going to be about a cynical topic, as usual. Forget good if good enough will do. Why spend the extra effort when nobody will even notice? Something like that. If you don't know what FFS means, you need more Irish friends. Basically, we talk about what works and what doesn't, what we can do about it. Without guests, it's a little bit more sort of one-sided speculation usually, as a bolus of shows is established. I'm hoping to draw some guests into the fray. I began this program some time ago. Old episodes are still available through Spotify. It used to be published through Anchor. Spotify bought Anchor, but our old episodes from 2021, I think, are up. They're a different format. There's some quirky theme music of sorts. I've kind of given up on music for a while. Podcast music rights are tricky, so talk shows don't necessarily need music, right? So, good enough will have to do. We'll get good later. On with the show. The show notes, hopefully, are to be found wherever you found this episode. The episode description, the summary of today's show. Many engineers, maybe more the ones from the old days, but I hope not. We'll try to find a root cause for some problem and see about fixing it. That's a lot of what I've done in my career. I kind of think that way in general, so I'll say I'm from the old days. In an age of personal economics, that is, what's valuable to the individual, solving an immediate problem and calling that done with a capital D seems to be the new thing. And that always comes back around. And it will always come back to bite you, I promise. Always. I've seen this countless times. I've sat with self-taught people. This is too much inside baseball, but if you start commenting things out or you start hacking, if you just fix the problem rather than solving the problem, I've likened it to if you get a flat tire driving through, down a street that turns out has sharpened spikes embedded in the asphalt. And you say, "Oh, let me just fix my tires and get on my way." You haven't solved anything. You've fixed your problem. But when you come back down the same street the other way, you're going to have the same thing, and other people have the same thing. So, fixing something, making it work, versus understanding it and repairing, correcting, solving. These are very different things. So, fixing your tires is good enough. Fixing the street would actually be good. It would be better, even. So we're going to dive into that a little bit today. This is absolutely a topic for energetic, spirited debate, energetic discussion. So let's get to the links section so we can get into the monologue. As usual, buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo is good enough. It's an out-of-band profile page. There's more to it than that. I basically use it as a free-form link tree. You'll see link in bio has made link trees popular. So here I just fill in some information. I have a list of coffees that I like, that I usually get those beans frequently. I have pointers to my count them four as I'm speaking today, 4 audio programs that I produce each week, different shows about different things. I have pointers to my GitHub repos and a few other things. So it's a place that is not my personal blog. It's not a business site. It doesn't require integration into anything. It's just an outside link. Like I said, it's good enough. You are under no obligation to buy anything. You can buy me a coffee if you want. All of my projects are powered by coffee. But you are under no obligation. You can swing through there. Once I get the websites up and all this, there's more pieces that are in motion. I don't want to make it sound too complicated, but it's just that I'm not spending too much time on these individual websites. They will be a part of a bigger picture. So one hat at a time of the many hats. Similarly, Dan Hugo, that's me, has a Ko-fi.com profile, ko-fi.com/Dan Hugo. So buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo, coffee.com/Dan Hugo. Just ways to keep in touch with people that are not major mass media, social networking gobbledygook, and they are good enough. I have a clip. I only have 2 more links, so if you're only listening to this, you can grab these, or you can just search for the actual content. There's a clip. It's 47 seconds of a great scene in the movie Office Space. Is Peter, right? Peter. Is that his name? Peter. Yeah. Hey, Peter. The neighbor yelling through the wall at him, right? Is that his name? Better be. Anyway, talking to the Bobs about why he doesn't do a lot of work. In 47 seconds, he sums up everything I'm going to talk about today, and I will take much longer. But essentially, at the end of the clip especially, he's like, it's not about motivation. It's just that I just don't care. And I only do enough work so that I don't get fired. So that's the gist of it right there. That is the foundation on which our modern society is built. If you haven't figured that out by now, give it another day. You'll see it. I'm going to get some water. Hang on. All right, we're back. I had to get some water. I normally have some water before I start recording. So yes, Peter, speak to the Bobs. It's a great clip. Sums up everything. It is, as is the whole movie, a very dismal documentary. Office Space and Idiocracy. Get the 2 movies set. It spells out the entire future of the world. The Pareto principle, if you're not familiar, it's a power law, mathematical power law, and distribution of. It applies in different ways. There's a squares version of it, but it's basically the 80-20 rule. So I have a Wikipedia link to the Pareto principle. Essentially, this tends to apply where 80% of a group, if you have a total group of 100%, 80% of the group will do 20% of the work, 20% of the group will do 80% of the work. So you're going to have the people who take on the task, they take it seriously, they get it done. The rest of the people are chilling, spectating. It applies in many different ways. So in the context of what we're going to talk about today, though, that's a pretty good example I just gave. So Pareto principle, ponder it. And that's it. That's all the links today. That list of 2 links plus my usual shameless self-promotion is going to have to be good enough. So I'm just going to keep milking that joke or reference, whatever. Good enough fast food. I learned the hard way. I mean, this is, if I look back, which I have for the purposes of this show, but also just in general, a little reflection and analysis. Looking back, when I got a job, I had a job at our family restaurant, and I probably saw it but didn't really recognize it in the behavior, the work ethic, and so on of some of the normal employees at the restaurant. Certainly some of the other management of the restaurant. But when I was at McDonald's, I was 16. I was a little bit more worldly. And so working in a McDonald's in a shopping mall in the Metro Center Mall in Phoenix, which was intensely busy around the holidays when I was working there, you really get to see what people are made of. And I'm surrounded by high school students from different high schools. We all get to know each other in this greasy work environment. The managers there are not well, some of them are still in high school also. They're not particularly management material. They've followed the promotion path. That is to say, you get promoted to your highest level of incompetence, right? So it was a co-op store, and the owner had his sort of right-hand person, Joyce, I think it was, and then Kathy was like the general manager, and Michelle was going by memory here. Michelle was like the main manager under Kathy. So Michelle was around a lot more, but Kathy was, you definitely knew when Kathy was around. So those people were a little bit more, they were hired to be managers. There was one person, Jill, her name was Jill. She was in the training videos. She had somehow attended the Hamburger University in Chicago. She was all in on McDonald's. I believe she slept on a bed of ketchup packets. Very, very McDonald's. I don't even want to know where her golden arches went. But so we had, that was a class of people that were managers, capital M, golden arches M, managers of that McDonald's. But most of the people we're working with are not dyed in the wool, as they say. They're just high school kids they've ascended a ladder. They're making a little bit more than minimum wage. When I started working there, I was making minimum wage. I worked at McDonald's for like a year, I think, give or take. And I started making $3.15 an hour. I ended up making $3.85, I think. Got a few big raises. Now, in fairness, the gasoline for my Volkswagen Bug was 79 cents a gallon. So, all things considered. But when I did work at McDonald's, I saw firsthand, and I was able to recognize that we were getting paid minimum wage. The customers were overly demanding sometimes. The work conditions were overly demanding. It was hot. It was greasy. It was smelly. Our colleagues were not well trained. They were apathetic, and there is certainly a social psychology element going on here when you are the most proactive, when you find yourself in that 20% doing the 80%. So when you find yourself being the energizer, the leader in the room, but you don't really want to be the leader in the room, it can tend to sort of slow your roll. And sometimes this is an explicit directive from your colleagues, like, hey, stop working so hard. You're making us look bad. You are raising the expectations of our little collective here. So the level of the level of apathy, I think, finds its maximum, probably maximum apathy achieved. So you very quickly, in that circumstance, you realize that if I work really hard and I attempt to deliver good, there's really no benefit. I don't get anything for it. In fact, I might get less because I'm not delivering as quickly. And I'll let you in on a little secret. This is the old days. These were the old days of McDonald's. So we had a bin. We had a shot. What is it? It was a food bin that was angled. The shot caller would keep an eye on the bin and would call the shots. They would say, I need 12 hamburgers. I need 6 cheeseburgers of those 12 on 12 cheese 6. How many quarter pounders, how many fish fillets, nuggets, all that stuff. So they would call the shots, and then they would wrap the food and they would put it in different slots, and they would slide down these little angled channels. Then they would put a number on there because food was not supposed to remain in the bin for more than 10 minutes. Anything that was over 10 minutes, so you'd put the number in there, was the number on the clock, 1 through 12, at which 10 minutes will have elapsed. So you put, if it's 10 minutes past the hour, put your fish fillet in there, you're going to put a 4. That's 10 minutes. So that food better be, so the shot caller has to balance the sort of just-in-time manufacturing. There were real skills to learn at McDonald's. So here's the deal. When the food has been in there too long, you called the shots wrong. So what you can do, instead of wasting the food, as they call it, so you mark the inventory for food that has not been sold. So you deduct that against your cost of doing business, right? You write it off. You could change those numbers. So now those fish fillets, to take that 4 off and put a 6, maybe put a 7. Now maybe when the 6 is up, when it's half past the hour, you're like, let's put an 8 back there. And you may sneak out to the front of the bin, behind the registers, where the front, and you unwrap a fish fillet, you give it a quick look, If if the cheese is still there, then it's still just awful. You have taken good product, and because of self-interest or maybe laziness, or you don't want to make your numbers look bad, you are now going to be selling food that is good enough. It's edible, not great. From a personal motivation standpoint, and again, maybe it's not about motivation. Maybe it's I just don't care. I don't want to get dinged for wasting too much food because I called the shots wrong. So I'll move the numbers around and we'll try to sell these food items, and they'll be good enough. And then my numbers look okay, and I don't have to deal with it. I won't have to get talked to or anything. So good enough. And that was the beginning of that. You'd start to wonder, like, well, why even bother having the numbers? Appearances, that's why. So there would be stopwatching, as in they would watch you work. There'd be somebody tucked away in a corner, checking off boxes on a survey, timing your behaviors. Like, hey, you let those nuggets cook for 12 seconds longer than things like this. Mostly it was customer service. But here's the deal. The incentive was usually to get the stopwatch I just mentioned. The incentive was to get the order items out to the customers so that they would leave. This was in a mall, so no drive-through. Our walk-up customers would get their food, and they would go to a table, or they would go back to work if they were working in the mall, or they would leave. But you want them to leave the counter so that you can clear a spot for the next customer. So that was the most important thing, was throughput. Deliver product, have customers leave, go sit down, get on with their day so we can get on to the next customer. That's how money is made, right? So that the incentive structure was about throughput, not necessarily quality. So you're incentivized to deliver food and not waste it so you can make the money, and to have the food available, because in my fish fillet example, if you throw those fish fillets away at the appointed time and then magically, you got 2 fish fillets in there, you got to waste them because it's 20 past the hour. You wasted them. They're in the green bucket. The check marks have been placed on the grid. 2 fish fillets wasted. And just as that second tick mark goes in, I need 2 fish fillets. Could have given them the 2 that just were on the edge of expiring, but they were still fresh. By the time it's 40 past the hour, you're like, maybe it's better that they didn't take those 2. But at the end of the day, the incentive is to get the customers cleared, retired, fill their order, on to the next one. So to accomplish this, the high school students, myself included, we all paid more attention to the clock, the seconds ticking down, that stopwatch, right? You had to get the order cleared. I think it was a minute, right? An arbitrary baseline. If you can't retire a customer in a minute and have them leaving happy, paid and on their way with a tray of McDonald's victuals, why? Was it that you were too slow? Well, because the shot caller took all the food and wasted it, and so they had to cook new burgers and stuff. So that throws off your stopwatch time, right? Now you're slowing down, and the smart managers would figure that out. But for the most part, it was an opaque recording of your performance in isolation, right? Like, somebody just dropped all the fish fillets. Now they got to make new ones. Well, you didn't finish in a minute. And, they'd make a note. It was fairly simple-minded, I guess. It was fast food. What are you gonna do? So, with the clock ticking down, absolute quality boundaries of the food itself become less important. You're not really saying, has it been there 10 minutes or 15 or maybe 20? Are those French fries? They're hot. Are they still good? And here's the thing: when you're working, unless you're a manager, even the shot caller wasn't really supposed to do this. You can't go pull a food item off and taste it. You can't see if it's still good. But let me tell you, here's a little secret, and I'm sure it applies today. If those French fries have been sitting there for an hour, they're not very good. Now, here's another little secret. If those French fries have just come up out of the hot oil, which I think is at 450 degrees or something. They're still shiny, glistening. Those are also not good. They need to be about 15 minutes old. That's like the sweet spot is somewhere in there. But you only know that by tasting them. So if you're only going by like abstract time measurement and I need to have French fries for this order, I don't care if they've been sitting there since yesterday. The KPI, the key performance indicator, is how many customers do you retire per hour or something. And they would literally do reports every hour. I think they called them the 1Zs or 2Zs or something. They would report your sales per register. And there were some people that did not care. The customers would say, oh, geez, that person's like running people over and sprinting and panting and threw food on the tray, like literally threw it, that kind of thing. Because they were really concerned about their register total for the hour and the time if they were being checked. So some people really prioritize that, but it made for a poor customer experience. But hey, I'm here at McDonald's. I'm here to get a Big Mac, fillet of fish, a quarter pounder, French fries, maybe an icy Coke, maybe a thick shake, sundae, maybe an apple pie. I don't care, really. It's as long as it's good enough, right? So if the customer is okay with that and they pay their bill and they take their food on their tray and they go sit down, or maybe they take it in a bag and they leave to go, and that's it. So everybody wins. You only expected good enough, and the high school student serving you was only ever going to give you good enough. I know it's cynical. Even when it wasn't quite good enough. Customer volume and busy managers meant any customer complaints, any issues, so a customer who wanted a little bit extra, any issues that were raised were often solved with a quick refund. Okay, here, let me give you your money back. Or some other credit, like here, let me promo a meal, or here's a gift card, or whatever. Let's make this problem go away. Let us solve the flat tire, not fix the road. So that's it. Fix the problem. And that is the way that entire business was running, and it was an interesting experience. So I learned very quickly the practicalities of I think we all have noticed this when we were even younger, but on the job, in your first job, in a fast food environment, you are surrounded by people who, listen to Peter. It's not that I don't have motivation, it's that I just don't care. It's kind of interesting, but it's kind of true, right? These high school kids were there to get money, to pay for cars, pay for gas for the cars, pay for prom, pay for, whatever their thing was. And that's it. Means to an end. So let's talk about good versus good enough. Common examples are usually, food service, right? You're going to get either good food or passable. I got to be honest, you don't go to McDonald's looking for a gourmet meal, but there's still a dividing line. You can, a freshly made food item at a fast food restaurant made by someone who cares, it can be pretty good. The food that I cooked when I was cooking on the grill, a few times that I did breakfast, making eggs and stuff in the morning, I prepared that food as though I were going to eat it, and it was good. I would have eaten the stuff I made countless times. There were several people there that I would also, if they prepared it, great. There were other people that I'd say, I'm going to be a vegetarian. So, the mileage varied. But food service, hospitality in general, hotels and any sort of service industry in general. Sometimes transportation, taxis, Lyft and Uber, especially public transit, bus drivers, train, subway, they sometimes just want to make sure that nobody dies. But you get some people that get the good. They're extra helpful. There should be a big giant tip jar. They never really make it easy to give good, the opposite of complaining, right? Giving kudos. Tract homes, tract home construction. If you've ever looked at a home being built, they're building 10 homes a day or 15 or 20. They are shake and baking those homes. Don't look, just don't look. Low-end clothing production, or really any low-end anything that's mass produced. with a lower price, not lower cost. I mean, it's meant to be a discount item, although this can apply to higher priced items as well. Anything that's mass produced. Basically, what it comes down to is the people that are responsible for making things or building things or assembling things or preparing things, cleaning things, they are very rarely connected directly with the outcomes. They're just doing their thing. They just have to deliver another widget. They just have to clean another room. They have to fold some more sheets. They have to, sew some more buttons on a shirt. So they're doing their thing. They're doing a repetitive task. They're cooking burgers on a grill, whatever. And they're not part of the output. They're just part of the process. They're part of the machinery. And if nobody says anything, if there's no real penalty, then it's all about the value proposition. If the customer is a friend, a family member, maybe someone we wanted to impress for whatever reason, then suddenly we are a part of that output. We're part of the result of our efforts and the efforts of others around us. So we'll say, oh, let me make sure you get the good burger. maybe the filet you're going to get today is going to be freshly made, because you're like, hey, go to your table. I'll bring it out to you. That had happened. I'm sure I did that. So the return on investment is here. The value proposition, I should say, is that where before I'm not a part of the output. I'm just doing my job, getting my minimum wage. I don't really get any more. I'm trading time for money. So if I work harder and deliver good, I get exactly the same as if I deliver good enough. So there's really no reason to put in the effort, unless you are suddenly included in that output. Like I said, so your mom shows up. Hey, I'm shopping in the mall today. I'm like, oh, let me get you a fresh burger, whatever. I don't think my mom ate McDonald's burgers, but whatever it was, let me make sure there's a good one. So you suddenly are part of that output. We might spend the time to make it good in that case, right? Probably. But otherwise, why bother when good enough is likely to be accepted by everyone in the supply chain, right? All the way out to the customer. If there's no tangible economic reason to expend the effort, that is, there's nothing in it for me, right? Is there a bonus attached? Are you getting some sort of performance bonus at the end of the shift? Like, hey, you cooked more delicious hamburgers that were cooked to spec, hot and juicy, or whatever. Pick your fast food adjectives. Your delivery of product was on time, and it was on spec, and it was delicious, and it was fresh and perfect. Here's an extra $20. At the McDonald's I worked, they usually would just give you free food. Here, that stuff was so good. Why don't you eat some of it? And nothing good came of that. So there are, if there are no intolerable penalties, nothing too painful, for consistent delivery of good enough instead of good, then where's the motivation to expend the effort? So if I just don't care, I don't have to worry about the motivation to deliver good products. I just do my thing, do good enough, get my paycheck. I often say this when you walk into a retail establishment. Say you walk into a coffee shop, yogurt shop or something. You've never been there. Maybe it's a bubble tea shop and you don't know what kind of bubble tea they have. Like, ooh, they have so many. I'm used to seeing only 100, and this place has 250 different types. So you're kind of looking up in awe, and you can hear the person, maybe it's a slow day, so you hear the person behind the counter, you hear the sigh as they put their phone down. Hopefully that doesn't get truncated out. So the person has let out a nice throaty sigh to let you know that you are interrupting them. And they say, can I help you? And you're like, well, I've never been here before. And then you get another, this person's going to take up my time, and I'm trying to have a chat with my friend, or I'm trying to gossip, or I'm trying to post an Instagram story or whatever. Reel. Right? Are stories still there? I don't know what's going on with that social media silliness. So you have now put this person in a position where they have to go above and beyond. They were going to make your bubble tea, which I think is usually an automated process for most, normal retail shops, especially if they have 250 different variations. So there's a machine, there's a cup that puts the seal on. They give you a big giant straw. Did you get the jellies you wanted? Did you get the big, the little, the whatever? Bubble tea is actually kind of good. So it's worth checking out find the good spots. But here's the deal. That person didn't want to help you. Mostly. The 80% are going to be like, they're going to be sighing. They'll be letting out the, you're taking up my time. I'm still only getting minimum wage and I'm not in California, so it's less than $20 an hour. So that person doesn't really care that you want to make a decision, that you need help. Can I taste a couple of these? No, okay, sure. I'm trying to draw a picture of the true 80%. Now you're going to run into the 20%. There's going to be people that are excited about customer service. And you know why? Because they're probably thinking about opening their own shop. They're probably thinking about work they're going to do that will involve talking to people and engaging with customers or clients or something, developing people skills in a fast food or in a retail food or retail in general job early in your career, especially if you're still in school. Totally valuable. Right, that will come back to you. So if you embrace that and you find that you're in that 20% because you see the long tail, you're not thinking, I got to spend my time on this customer today. You're thinking, oh, every time I kind of tune my skills with working with people and I can impress upon them my skills, my desire to deliver a good product or service or something, that's going to be reflection on my business in the future, my clientele, the quality of my business, the reviews that I get from my customers, whatever I'm doing, my clients, customers, whatever. So it's part of your roadmap, your personal roadmap is to actually lean towards good instead of good enough. And that's good. So if there's no penalty, right? If there's nobody in the store saying you're supposed to help and you're supposed to not sound like it's a chore. So if there's no real penalty, then, whatever. I get my bubble tea. I'm not overly impressed, but, it's good. Yeah, I would come back here. Like, I'm not going to write a review about how the person behind the counter was super helpful. The review will mention, it's really good bubble tea. It's 250 flavors. I didn't even know which one to pick, but I had to soldier on by myself. Now, same store, same bubble tea. You walk in, person behind the counter is wiping the counter, like cleaning things, dusting, making sure the straws are full, stocking, as we used to say. You got to restock. If you got nothing to do, you better restock cups and lids. And so that person's back there. They see you come in the door. They stop what they're doing. They look at you. Hey, welcome to, how can I help you? Have you ever been here before? Oh, you look like you're, yeah, we have a lot of flavors. Very interactive, very, they may be in that 20%, but I don't know. The description I gave really says one thing: store manager or owner. And why is that? Because the financial incentives, the economy of being helpful behind the counter is either, I'm getting my minimum wage paycheck. Maybe there's tips. People don't tip much on a bubble tea, so it's $1 at a time maybe, or $2. So you get to shrug your shoulders and sigh and hang out on your phone. Or you're the owner of the establishment and you have a vested interest in people coming back. You want to have good products with good experience so that they leave you a positive review. They tell their friends, they bring their friends in, help you add new customers. And guess what? When you're the owner of the establishment, assuming you are making profit, you are usually taking a draw based on profit. You probably don't get to participate in the tip pooling, but you get to benefit from the success of the business. The employee making minimum wage who doesn't get dinged, doesn't make less than minimum wage for a good enough experience, is like, yeah, okay, whatever. So you can always spot the owner or somebody who does have a real vested interest in it, or who understands the value proposition where they end up getting something from this that's not in their paycheck. So I started realizing that very early on, either at McDonald's or my other high school friends that were in other fast food establishments, or sometimes retail. That Metro Center Mall was a very popular workplace for tons of high school students. So you could see it. You can see it in the minimum wage thing. Minimum wage is a different, hairier issue. That's maybe for another time. I used to be in favor of a minimum wage that would match cost of living and so on. But here again, raising minimum wage is good enough. But why? Because raising minimum wage is inflationary, right? You're going to raise the cost of living. You're going to gentrify. You're going to, suddenly rents are up 20%. The cost of the product, if you're in California, is going up, although that's probably something of a protest. But, if you look at the root cause, like, why is housing so expensive? Why is cost of living? Because if cost of living is already going up, there may be some other gentrifying factors. There may be, you're trying to change industries. You're having some higher paying jobs in the area, but you're not sensitive to lower wage, fair market housing, etc. So here in Vegas, they have a drastic shortage of even fair market rate housing. People will often, hey, is that Section 8 housing? Section 8 housing is Section 8 is a program to subsidize paying rents, and they pay based on fair market value or fair market rents, FMR. And you can find homes that are below market rent, BMR. Bummer. So if you find BMR, it's easier to, if you are obtaining Section 8 assistance, right? So if you are examining your economy and the living conditions and the cost of living, you can consider a good enough solution, which is raise minimum wage, put more money in people's pockets, which will then result in raising the cost of living again, taking that money out of their pockets. Or you can look at a good solution which tackles the overall economic conditions, the availability of fair market rate. I think it's fair market rate, fair market rent. I think in Nevada they call it fair market rent. I think in California it was fair market rate. I could be wrong. But it's when you consider what a root cause is versus fixing the problem at hand. Raise the minimum wage. That's like fixing your flat. Let's figure out why minimum wage even has to have a thing. Why does it need to be adjusted? Why is it the market not taking care of this, right? I will say I'm on the fence about a minimum wage, but I think in general, I've said this before in some of my productions, I've tended to side on this one thing with Adam Carolla, of all people. He said there's a reason it's called the minimum. That should not be your goal. I have to agree. So let's talk about where your mileage may vary on all this. Where the line is will almost always vary with the person doing the work. That is, to me, doing good, delivering good product, service, that might mean staying late. That might be doing some extra reading in my career field, which is, software, systems, computers, and other things, right? So I may take a proactive interest because I am interested in the topic or the service or the product or whatever I'm working on, and I would rather not phone it in, as they say. So making the thing good versus good enough, that line, it moves around for people. I used to work at Netscape many years ago, many years ago. I stayed there for days one time, and I stayed there for almost days other times, because you want your code to work and you don't want to break the build. You don't want to cause other people pain by breaking things with your software, your bad software, which I did anyway. But those are the times we were in. But if you are on the good side of the line, then if you end up good enough, it still bothers you. But if you are on the good enough side, you're like, why am I spending time trying to make it good? I just need it to be good enough. There will be an average. You'll be in a room. The people that you are working on the project with, the people that are in the cubicles around you or the offices, people on that Zoom call, people in the coffee shop, there will be an average, and there will be some people that are above average. They're working on the good side. I don't know what that, I'm getting into social media for some reason. They're on the good leaning, the good effort level. And then there are some on the below average, we'll say below. And those are the people that are satisfied with good enough, and they don't really want to put in the effort because they just don't care, to quote Peter again. This is just how the world works. There's always an average, and there are always people above and below. But there is that Pareto principle, like I said. There may be an observation you could make. You could survey your coworkers. Now here, the average will show you one thing. But if you really look at work output, like the tendency of each individual to drive good versus good enough, you may find you come in pretty close to the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. So that 20% of the work group, whoever's working on a particular project, or if you were to compare apples and apples, right? So people doing similar work or working on a similar project, collaborating in some way. On any given day, there may be some people working together or working on a particular component or whatever. So you can take that group, and on that day, 20% of the work, 20% of the group that day will do 80% of the work. And they will probably tend to want it to be good, probably. Not 100%. So the 20% will do 80% of the work, but you'd have to actually measure that output based on the person and which population they're in and determine whether they were delivering good versus good enough. So it's getting a little bit more nuanced here. And then 80% of the work group does 20% of the work, so they're a little bit more lax. They will almost certainly be leaning towards good enough. Like, I don't want to do 21%. So let me just phone it in here. So if anybody working today is entirely in the 80%, that does the 20% of the effort, of the delivery of product, whatever the task deliverable is, your outputs for the day or the shift or whatever will be merely good enough if 100% of your workforce tends to be in the 80% that does the 20% effort. Does that make sense? So the Pareto principle is an interesting thing, and you'll find it really does work out that way more often than not. And if you compare that with a tendency to want to do good versus good enough, you correlate that with the different proportions of your overall team, your overall workforce, you may find some interesting things. It will vary. It will vary possibly with the time of the day, time of year, but something to think about. Some of the people who do aim for good, or instead of good enough, may have a longer tail. They may have a bigger plan, the big picture. Rewards to them may come in the form of who they encounter. If you're working at a coffee shop near a law firm and you're planning to go to law school, you want to get some good connections with some attorneys. So when you see, those are attorneys at what is it? Something Lambert and Fitch or whatever. I'm going to try to do the lawyers for the firm. I can't remember the name. I know one of them is Lambert. Anyway, I know those attorneys. They're, you get them their coffees. You're extra friendly. You're extra happy. You're doing the good, right? You're delivering good experience, good product, good service. And they leave, and they're like, yeah. And then one day you say, I'm off to law school. Oh, make sure you get us your contact. Maybe make sure you come by, or let us know when you're wrapping up and graduating, when you're going for the bar. They will appreciate the investment that you've made in their experience. So when people have that long tail, that kind of throws off the Pareto principle a little bit, or they will just generally be in the 20% doing 80% of the work because they have a bigger plan. But it's helpful if employees are hired with that, if you can find people that have that big picture in mind, so that their own success can be a part of your success when you hire them. You have a little symbiosis going on, and then the person that's behind the counter at your bubble tea shop may brighten up everyone's day because they know at some point it's gonna come back to me, what I'm learning, the people I'm encountering, etc. So they may be doing the network, they may be learning a skill, they may have a career goal that aligns with something they're doing or something they're experiencing, or maybe a penalty would place those future plans at risk. So if they have a value proposition of their own that requires that they do well in a particular job, coffee shop, bubble tea shop, library, whatever, right? They have bigger plans. A penalty that to any casual person might be like, oh, I don't care. I'll just find another job. I only need to make minimum wage, and I really don't, that a penalty to that person doesn't quite have the same impact as what? I need this job so that I can continue to engage with the law firm. So there are different values assigned, and that's where you get the line moving around, and which of the 20 versus 80 group are you in, and how do you view the job, and so on. So I think it can be more interesting, more complicated, but very rarely does a customer ask that. So your mileage may vary as far as how you take these measurements, or whether you talk to people. Maybe you hire them and you talk to them, or maybe you talk to them before you hire them. Probably a better plan. I have a couple of examples. I have thousands of examples. But yesterday, Sunday? I think it was Sunday. Well, first of all, so I have 3 examples of thousands. So I think it was around the 14th. No, the 14th. So I think it was maybe 2 or 3 days before. So 10, 12, somewhere in there. April. Pardon my sinuses. I attempted to do an inter-account, my own accounts, transfer. So, because I try not to keep too much money in one account that has a card attached to it, debit card or anything, because, you lose a card, that just more headache. So you basically, you can keep the balances pretty close to the liabilities. So the money will be drawn out, et cetera, et cetera. So, okay. So I transferred some money. The next day I see that the transfer never happened. I get an overdraft fee. I'm like, what? What is this? I specifically moved I do this all the time. You can see in my history, you'll see this. Is there a record of this not happening? And they're like, oh, we don't keep records of transfers that don't complete. And I said, that doesn't help me, because I remember explicitly doing the same thing that I do almost every week. You can take a look. You can see the history on the account is that I do these transfers all the time. They're just inside the bank. It's between, I do it on the website. So the take home, it's a bank. They're supposed to be fastidious when it comes to the totals, the numbers, the debits and credits and so on. So for them to not log this attempted transaction that didn't happen was shocking to me, but not really. I've kind of come to expect that side of the line, the good enough. So they credited me they didn't even, there was no discussion. I said, I did initiate the transfer and there's no log, but I do it all the time. And they're like, okay, well, we'll send it to the home office and they'll make a determination. And they just they credited the overdraft fee. So done. That's it. So they have a system in place that's good enough. And this reminds me of McDonald's. It's good enough. If there's a problem, we'll just give you a credit. We'll refund the problem and make it go away. Or are you going to institute logging of transactions initiated so you know when they fail? No. Okay. Good enough. Not good. Similarly, same bank, another transaction failed to auto pay an insurance premium. So this is another reason. So monies are kept in accounts associated with particular expected payments, so that reduces the chance that somebody will go, oh, I have transfer data. I can write myself an ACH transfer and take all your money. So auto pay for insurance, there was the transaction failed, not because of insufficient funds. And in this case, there was no failed transfer. Everything was fine. This was an expected transfer. Everything was all good. Transaction declined. So at 1 o'clock in the morning, I get a email. Your insurance will be canceled in 4 days. Like, what? What's going on here? Then I get another notification. We have an insurance lapse. You need to notify us. You have to obtain new insurance. So right away, like, they're on this. So I email. It's a Sunday morning. This is a bank problem. It's not a me problem. And I actually have the transaction records. I have the emails that I sent to everybody. I have the cancellation timestamp, and then I have the cancellation rescinded timestamp, which is less than 7 hours later on that Sunday. And also, so then I get another notification. So today's the 30th, so I got it either the 28th, I think, 27th. Our records show that your insurance lapsed on the 18th. And I said, no, it didn't. And they said, well, according to our records. I said, but I sent an email in real time and it didn't actually lapse. It didn't lapse on the 18th. It actually didn't lapse at all. Everything got sorted as I described in the email. Well, you're supposed to let us know when that happens. I said, I did. I let you know that it didn't happen. But unfortunately, the system, so I've described this workflow of like, oh, payment attempt failed one time, no retry, triggers cancellation notification. A 4-day timer starts counting down. That propagates to another service that triggers another warning, blinking lights, sirens. Okay, well now we fixed the payment problem, so that one retry got that sorted. So now the rescinded cancellation is fine, but that next step of that lapse trigger didn't go anywhere. Well, we're not going to acknowledge that was wrong. We're still going to give you homework. You got to deal with it. So we will continue to treat you as though you did not notify us that everything was repaired, and you're still. So basically, a collection of things that are poorly orchestrated. I'm using a technical term for systems and software. So if you have these events are occurring, and you should orchestrate them so that when one happens, then you capture it, you acknowledge it, but then when you get an update like, oh, it turns out that cancellation has been reversed, you should accept that event and say, oh, cancellation reversed, there's going to be no lapse, so we can update our records to show that lapse never happened. We're done. The human should barely be notified, and there certainly shouldn't be now you have to do this manually because we only do half of it automatically. The reason I'm going into this detail with this is we're only going to see more of this. You do know that. For example, I use an Android phone. You may be using an iPhone. I'm sorry. I worked at Apple. So Android releases a monthly update. About 2 months ago, I think it was. Update comes out, and all of a sudden there are warnings all over. And I think it comes out on the 5th of the month or something. And your phone will eventually automatically update if you don't do it manually. And it should happen automatically. Except that the update was bricking phones, and nobody knew why initially. So it would be possible that your phone would say, no, we're doing the update because we've not been told. No update to the update has been sent to the phone to say, don't apply this update automatically. So the infrastructure, just like my insurance payment trigger warning, whatever scheme, we're going to do the update because we got a notification from the mothership that we have an update to apply. But then humans are going, don't apply it because it's breaking phones. But that doesn't get into the system, right? So it turns out, and this is the funny part, it turns out that Google, the Android devices can have user profiles. So I could have like a work and a home profile. So different apps might be visible, just a different user experience. I can have a kid profile. So you give your phone to your child. You can have the troublesome apps like logging into work emails and things. You can have those in the work profile. The kid has a couple of games in their whatever. So it's an interesting feature. I made use of it years ago, but I don't really need it. Android phones are not real computers, so they kind of are, but they really aren't. So I don't use that feature. So it turns out the update would brick phones that were making use of the user profile feature, which is a standard feature in Android. It's not a hack. You don't have to root your phone or anything. It's a normal feature shipping in the product. But this update was good enough because they didn't test it on phones that were using this standard Android feature for user profiles. That would have been good. But they were happy to ship the monthly patch, the monthly security update, such that it was not tested on phones that made use of this feature. And the funny part was the same thing happened the second month, so this may have been 3 months ago and then 2 months ago or something like that. It was recent enough and made me chuckle unhappily enough, and it aligns with most of the other things I'm saying, right? Like, you don't really know what's going on. I had no control over what my bank was doing, what the transaction failure didn't have any error messages or status or indication of what, card presence was broken, or there are any number of transaction failure status messages that could be available, but they don't make anything available other than transaction declined. Here's your update. Oh, my phone is bricked. Oh yeah, we heard about that. Well, how come it updated anyway? So just these systems are in place now where we don't really know what they're doing, or we don't necessarily understand what they're doing. And the people that have assembled and orchestrated these workflows and these processes and systems, whether it's my bank or the insurance company or restaurants, bars, automotive repair, public transit systems, airlines, good enough is one bolt holding that door plug in, or window plug, or whatever it is, on that Boeing aircraft for Alaskan Airlines. Good would have been all of them. But these systems that we don't have any, they're not observable. You have no information about how they work or how they should work. And when they fail, sometimes you have to deal with it because somebody behind the scenes said, we can test it on phones with no user profiles. That'll be good enough. I'm going to guess that someone literally said that. If they even knew that was an option, it was implied. It was tacit if it wasn't made explicitly. But it's because good enough is often exactly that. So the 3 examples I gave here are drop in the bucket. We all encounter these things all the time. And when you try to tell somebody, like, hey, this is happening because of this thing. Like, I saw a thing. I saw a facet of this that may not have been recognized. I saw the person. I saw the car. I saw the little sharp point sticking up out of the street, flattening tires. Yeah, we'll look into it. I have literally called the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department to ask about a police report that was published. And I said, did this happen on other days or just the 2 days? And the response was, I don't know, that's above my pay grade. Like, literally, you are the person that answers the phone to answer questions like this. But that answer was good enough. So it comes in all shapes, sizes, colors, flavors. You're going to encounter this. If you haven't already, you will only encounter it more. Because why put in the extra work? And that's in the Peter discussion with the Bobs. I only have to do enough work to not get fired. It's like being permanently assigned to a large judicial body. You do whatever you want, you're not going to get fired. You're there for life. So what is the problem? We depend more and more on the work of others, of course, and their skill set. Like, I don't know how to do some things, and you don't know how to do some things, so I'll do the things I know how to do and sell it to you, and it'll be good enough, and you don't get to ask me questions about it unless you pay extra or something like that. And the processes are opaque, so we don't get to see how they work. It's a secret recipe. It's a patented trade secret. No, can't have those. It's a patented process. It's a trade secret. Nobody knows all the ingredients. Nobody knows the different values we have dialed into this machine that makes the thing that plugs into the other, whatever. So they're very opaque, and it could be, I don't know how my bank handled the decline of the transaction, or why. I don't know why the insurance company chose to not retry it. I don't get to know those things. They're opaque, so I have to deal with them. They are in a good enough mode. I would like it to be in a good mode, but it doesn't leave me in a good mood. See what I did there? If we accept, and by the way, we don't have time. Usually, we must accept good enough because either or all of. We don't have the time. We don't have the inclination. We don't have the knowledge. We don't have the inclination, yes, the motivation to get to the inclination. You just have better things to do, right? The reason you're having someone else do something, the reason you're having an auto pay transaction take place, is because you have other things. You don't need to be tracking that thing. That's what computers and automation are for, except when they're not. And they go, we're switching to manual, and you get to deal with it. And you're like, but I don't even know what to say to the person I needed to talk to because everything's opaque. Everything is convoluted. It's not designed for you to mess with. It's designed to just work. And if it doesn't work, you're not supposed to say anything. Good enough. Now go back to work. Go back to school. Go to do whatever you're doing. Get out of my hair. So if we accept good enough as status quo, which most people do, we don't necessarily know what good is. We don't what is a good McDonald's hamburger? What are those supposed to taste like? I will tell you this. McDonald's announced their new menu for the 2024, I guess, beginning of this year, calendar year. And now you know there are people that are paid good money to construct things that are barely food so that they look good on camera. They take glistening, delightful, delicious pictures of burgers and fries and sauces and buns and fry, all that stuff. Barely food. I think legally it has to be food, but it's not really. Like milk can literally be like an Elmer's glue or a white glue because, everybody remember this from kindergarten? White glue is basically made of cornstarch and water. Paste. Right? It's just made softer. So it looks like milk, but it's still edible. So you can use that for milk. So the real food that was showing up in some pictures when people were reporting on these menu changes, and they look disgusting because the people that are spending time getting paid to construct these pieces of artwork to represent the brand and the food items and so on in pictures and on websites and so on, they're getting paid to do good. The people working at McDonald's are barely getting paid to deliver good enough. And yeah, those pictures were like, yeah. Were your eyes open when you built this Big Mac? Whatever. So we are so accustomed now to this that we may not even know. I couldn't even tell you, because I don't make them myself anymore, but I couldn't even tell you what a Big Mac should taste like because I used to be able to tell you because I made them, hundreds and thousands of them. It was kind of fun, actually. But we are now so divorced from expectations of good that good enough is probably good enough. So now there's a null void. If good enough is all we're going to get, there's nothing driving that back towards good. It just continues to drive towards good enough or worse versions of good enough. Our expectations are lowered. The bar is lowered, as they say. So good enough can continue to get worse or move away from good. And we accept it because we don't have the time or inclination to deal with it. So we've just come to expect late departures from our airlines. We've come to expect parts falling off of their airplanes. That's not funny. I don't like parts falling off my airplanes. And that our luggage may not even be on the same trip that we're on. Like we've just come to expect that, my luggage arrived when I did. A little surprise, a pleasant surprise. So we are all kind of amazed when we get what we pay for, what we thought we were expecting, and what we think we should have gotten, and we get it. Like, ooh, that's unusual. There was no trouble. And then, and because it's so surprising, we're like, oh, that's wonderful. Now I don't have to deal with that. I can move on to the next thing. So just like the tire, like, oh, I don't have to fix my tire. I don't even have to worry about the fact that I drove over a street with embedded sharp objects pointing up to flattened tires. I don't have to deal with it. I'm on to the next thing. So you may have to deal with it next time because rather than saying, wait, there may be an actual problem here, you're like, hey, I got mine. I don't have to worry about it. So we've kind of, we've just grown to expect. What am I going to do about the Amazon? Amazon's a whole nother problem. What am I supposed to do about the Android update problems when they occur? I had the Nexus 4. I had 4 of them with the boot loop problem. And their solution was to send me a new phone. I'm like, when this phone failed, I was out and I couldn't get a ride home because I couldn't do Lyft and Uber because I have no defense for that. But so I had to take a taxi, and they said, oh, we'll credit your account $50 because that also fixes the problem, right? Refunds and credits. Let's make the problem go away rather than fixing it. A workaround is not a solution. So as everybody's new best friend, oh, by the way, for airlines, I think there's some new passenger rights coming around with canceled flights and credits. So we'll see how that goes, but I don't think it's not going to go far enough. But as long as Boeing is involved, we'll be fine. As everybody's new best friend enters the picture, that would be AI, will probably begin to take up the slack where there is insufficient talent. I know I have no graphical or aesthetic talent, so if I'm able to generate some cover art for my audio programs, well, okay, that's good enough. They're not essential. I don't feel like I'm not even I'm not creating artwork. I'm really like, can you make a chalkboard with an integral on it? So things like that. It's small pieces of trivia in visual form. There will be some jobs where there were too many. They will be replaced by AI. They'll be replaced poorly, and we'll save some money to turn more profits. So it will only be for profit's sake. It will only be for the fiduciary responsibility for the shareholders to generate more profits by laying people off, which has become more and more popular at companies like Tesla and Google, because that is the part where we always want to be extra good. Good enough profits, meh. Good, not even close. We want extra. So this is going to happen more. I'm convinced of it. So because fewer people will understand what the AI is doing, the large language models and the fine tuning and the data that's been drawn into like multiple data sets have been drawn in to tune this model for a particular application area, and then you're presenting a prompt or a query and it's returning something and you're like, I don't know why that's wrong. I didn't write that. It's written by some other AI. So there will be more opaque. The answer seems right, seems good enough. And that may be our plight for a while until there's at some point people will say, you know what, good enough really kind of sucks. And that is why we will approach slowly and from upwind what to do. It is overly optimistic, of course, to believe that we might all just one day wake up and realize the error in our ways and get back to the good old days. I remember when we used to make things that lasted. American know-how, American engineering, all that kind of, making things the way they used to, built to last, as I have written in my notes. That is simply not going to happen. Anytime soon, anytime later, there will not be a great epiphany. It took us a long time to get here, decades of slowly but surely whittling away so that we are far more concerned with what's on our phones. We are far less aware of what's happening inside our phones, where our data is going, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just one thing. So the less connected we have been to our surroundings, the more likely we have grown to accept good enough. And you can't just change that overnight. So we're kind of stuck with it as a globe. All we can hope for initially is a heightened sense of awareness. Maybe people will begin in small numbers to, on both sides of the equation, become more aware of, especially if it's themselves, producing things, goods and services, food and drink, whatever it is, and the consumption of these things, like using the phone service, getting on an airplane. Why would you do that? Anything that you are on either side of the transaction, you should just be more aware of both. I always tell people, I worked at McDonald's, and I had luckily a small number, but it was more than zero. It was in a mall. People were frustrated, impatient, and that's just me. So there would be people not in the best of ways. Their hamburger was not as they wanted it. It took 10 minutes to get it to them. they're angry, and of course they want to yell at the first person they see wearing a silly hat. So that happens. But I always tell people, from that experience, if I go to a fast food restaurant or any restaurant, and I've had friends in the service industry, I've had currently and years ago, I've had, friends and family restaurants and so on. So there's no way you're going to take it out. I mean, okay, the thing I ordered, it's been 25 minutes. It's not coming out. Can I just get a refund? We'll call it even, and I'll come back next time and try again. That's it. Not like, oh, I can't believe if I had pearls on, I'd be clutching them. Can't get angry at that. So they're only trying to be good enough. They didn't make it that day, but I understand. And I think if we reach the point where we can kind of figure out what's going on, that might be useful. So knowing both sides of the equation, I have been on your side of the counter. Now I'm on this side. I'm not going to freak out. Take the refund. We're all good. So that might be a good start, in my opinion. Personally, I believe AI could be used maybe more productively or more predictably for some very serious deep dives into quality assurance and quality control. That is, cameras, audio, video cameras, gas sensors for sensing smell, particles. You could have gas chromatographs. You could have colorimeters. You could have all kinds of sensors, and you could be modeling sensor inputs for known good products. You could be training on that, and then you could be checking your production line. You could put these in restaurants, right? You can say, hey, the meat has some toxins coming, the gases I'm sensing, the color is wrong, whatever it is, right? You can do these, and you can make it, you can couple it to room temperature, so you could have systems that are checking things, and it doesn't have to be food only, right? It could be a lot of things. Anything where there's a customer involved, you basically turn the AI into a little customer advocate. You're like, hey, this language that we use to answer this question doesn't really make sense, etc. So I think where technology will be used first to replace people, and yes, technology has been used to create like chat support robots. I'm sure Amazon employs all of them, but I think it would be interesting if the AI tools were being more proactive about not delivering a good enough response, like, oh, we'll just credit your account with $5 for your trouble, which I've gotten that one. But hey, let's actually fix this problem. Let's analyze your experience. I've ordered things from Amazon, and they ship them in insufficiently padded, I guess would be okay, but insufficiently protective mailing devices. So, breakage problems. So I'll order the item again sometime later. It's a food item, so consumable. And it happens again. And I'm like, this is the third time, fourth time. Oh, we'll just credit. You can't return the item because it's a food item, so we'll just credit you. So now I'm on the fence. Good enough packaging, but a full credit, and it's still usable. Or should they make it a good experience and fix the problem so that I don't have to make the call or chat and all that? So, the math is done, the Fight Club math. If A times B plus C times D is not greater than E, then don't fix the shipping materials that we use to ship that item. So I think artificial intelligence tools could be used reasonably effectively to do things that right now no humans are doing, and it might not cost jobs. Kind of interesting. Thinking out loud. You could literally have this sensor array I just mentioned checking ingredients, even in your home. Hey, you could have an AI robot that's checking your elder care living space. Make sure their body weight is not falling. Make sure the food in the refrigerator. This doesn't have to be elder either. It could be depression management, mental health checks. If the food in your refrigerator is going stale or not being replenished, that's an input that a machine learning algorithm could make use of. It doesn't have to be a feedback loop. It could literally be, it is the time of the year where it's colder, so they're less. You could actually adapt and be a little bit more intelligent, but you could actually accept these. You could make a good caregiving artificial intelligence system that monitors and protects its owner, I guess. It doesn't have to replace a dog either. It could be interacting with the dog. It could speak dog. It could learn how to speak dog. That would be awesome. Maybe this podcast is going in a new direction now. But the list goes on. These are tools that could be helping, augmenting the services that human caregivers could give, human tech support, human testing, not testing on humans, but people actually testing that Android device to make sure the update will actually not break the phone. That's an AI thing. I worked at a large chip company in Oregon. I'm not going to say which one. It doesn't start with A though. I was having a chat with a UEFI BIOS engineer. I've done some work in UEFI, but I would not consider myself a UEFI engineer. So it's the BIOS, the modern day BIOS, UEFI. So he was telling me one of the problems that we run into is when they're building a new product, they take these old IP blocks, intellectual property blocks. So they'll take, a memory controller and a cache controller and a branch logic and things. So when you read about, or when you hear about, and then you have to update your software, security problems and things, when you hear about these different Spectre and Nosebleed or whatever, now you have these problems with flipping memory bits by flipping other memory bits by flipping known memory bits very quickly. So you'll get this coupling effect, and it will corrupt memory elsewhere in a memory array, in a cache or something. Or you can mess with the branch prediction. Well, these are all the same intellectual property blocks that are reused. So according to this person I was talking to, he said, these things have bugs in them. They have problems, but we just keep reusing them. So rather than spending the time to redesign them, make them good, we just keep using the same ones over and over because they're good enough. But then you get the same problem, the same vulnerability shows up in any product after 1938 has this vulnerability because we just keep using the same stuff over and over because it's good enough. So I could just keep going and going. These are all going to be circumstances where nobody really analyzed the big picture. Like, what could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? So yeah, I think artificial intelligence could be used to find processor security vulnerabilities. It could be used to check people, monitor your mental health, your physical health, passively, right? It could just be observing, and it could do it locally. It doesn't have to send anything to a mothership until such time as it says, something's wrong. Better call the 911 or care center or whatever. So you could literally have, at this point, I think it's fair to say, you could have an artificial intelligence system running in your home locally, not sending data to anywhere, that just keeps track of things and makes sure that you're not tipping over, that you're eating, that you're not losing weight, that your body temperature is appropriate. The list goes on. So yeah, these things could happen. And if sufficient proaction is unlikely, which it probably is unlikely for a long time forward, we can at least decide individually, so you don't have to worry about the masses, to become more aware of how systems and processes should work. Like, I know how my bank and the insurance thing should work. I know how Android updates. I have actually worked on cell phones before. So I know I'm aware of how some of these things should work. Just become aware of what you should be looking for. If it's a thing you use every day or every week, or if you have kids and they depend on it, or, so the more important, the more critical, the more potentially disastrous a thing, the more you should become aware of what works and what doesn't, and how to deal with that. Make sure that you at least have a handle on what good enough is, and make sure good enough doesn't keep slipping down so that eventually it's like, well, it didn't explode. It's good enough. So yeah, just know what is in your personal supply chain. We should know if we're being shortchanged, disrespected in any number of ways about, what you're being told versus what's true. What like my insurance thing, you have to deal with it now. Like, that's kind of disrespectful. nothing happened. Nothing real happened. My bank didn't process a transaction. I addressed that like the moment the sun was up. It's not bad. I think 7-hour response time when it starts at 1 a.m. on a Sunday, that's not too bad. I think we got that sorted. So to now have additional work, well, it's your responsibility to notify. Yeah, but nothing happened. It was solved before it became a problem. Well, we got a notification and it didn't get taken care of magically because that's your problem. Well, nobody told me that. So you have to become aware yourself. You have to take the onus, figure out how things work, especially if they're going to cause you problems later. As my Boy Scout brethren used to say back in the day, be prepared. And if we can all do that individually, not all, but individually, if we become more aware of how things don't work and when they are barely working, when they are barely good enough, we will at least have a handle on what happens when they get worse and how we may be able to undo the headaches caused in any particular failure on any particular day, knowing there will be another one. I don't know if that car screwed that up. Knowing there will be another one. Okay. That's where we're going to end today's episode. I'm really frustrated by the state of the world when it comes to this. I see too many up-and-coming technology folks. This is the 80-20 thing. 20% of the people that are in the field that I'm in, basically, give or take, 20% are doing 80% of the work. But a lot of people, maybe 80%, are generating a lot of problems, even though they're doing 20% of the work. So the Pareto principle may not completely apply when it comes to like net outputs. I have found too many self-taught people who don't care. They're all about good enough. They don't understand the cost implications of that debt. It's good enough today, but it causes a fire in 3 years. If that direct thing that you left because, it's good enough, and you didn't deal with it, you didn't correct it so that it's truly good, we only need 3 tires. That was I forgot about that. That was my analogy for like, somebody said, we should focus on what does work. And I said, what's that thumping noise? We're driving down the freeway. Like, don't worry about that. We got 3 good tires. Let's focus on what we have. So I think if we're too quick to accept failing systems, and we are, then it doesn't get better. So it's like a form of gaslighting. Don't forget to check out buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. See what I'm up to. I know I've been saying this forever. I'm only one person, and barely that sometimes. Be sure, check that out eventually, although I will announce it when the ffstalk.com website launches, when the cafegenius.org website launches with the podcast and some other modern things. So honestly, I don't even know if the website's up. I haven't used the Cafe Genius website in a while, but primary point of publication for podcast content should be on a domain that you own. If you don't own your own domain and you're trying to use social media platforms, those are good enough for now, but take control of your online presence. So my audio programming will continue to be available through Spotify and other platforms that use the Spotify as a starting point to draw shows onto their menu of possibilities. But the primary place where you would find the audio programs, the transcripts, the show notes, etc., should be on a platform that I own, and I do own them. So it's a question of deployment. buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. You're under no obligation to buy me a coffee, but you can if you want. ko-ficoffee.com/DanHugo is the other out-of-band notification information sharing tool that I use to keep in touch with people and tell them what's going on and what I'm working on. That is it. Thank you so much for listening. Try to be good, not just good enough. Thank you.